Welcome back to another episode of NFT Catcher Podcast. We'd like to remind everybody that nothing on the show is meant as financial advice, and to please do your own research. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Now the subject is NFTs.
They're known as non-fungible tokens, or NFTs.
NFTs are exploding in popularity.
This is a technology that will forever change the way people interact.
So it is happening whether you understand it and like it or not.
This phenomenon is moving. The digital.
You have now joined Jenny from the blockchain and Michael Keene on the NFT Catcher Podcast.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the NFT Catcher Podcast with me, Jenny from the blockchain, and my co-host, Michael Keene. Today, we have a special guest, Amber Vittoria. Welcome to the show, Amber.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm great. How about you? It's been a while.
Doing great. It's been a minute.
No, I'm doing really well. It's nice to be recording. Nice to have you, Amber.
Yes.
Your pillow game is on point behind you.
Thank you. This one's on the side. Sometimes I
Oh.
forget which way it goes.
Nice.
Is that your art? That's all your art?
Yeah, a lot of that's your art, right?
Yeah, not that one though.
Right.
Not that one, yeah.
This one I have to actually wash it. Thank God it doesn't pick up much.
Thank God nobody can see it.
But yeah, these are
that looks
samples of my art that comes out next year. So that's all I can say about it. But I got
Oh,
some samples. It's
shoot.
nice. Yeah.
Wow,
And
next
that's
year.
a painting on the wall too.
Oh yeah, so these are two paintings of
Oh wow.
me and my husband, and they're the only two that I have signed with my married name. So my last name is Vittoria, but my married name is Vittoria Zhang. So one is of me and one of that's him. I have to turn around because I know I'll point backwards, and that one's me.
So cool.
Yeah.
So for some context here for our audience, I actually met Amber at VCon. We were on a panel together. I was moderating the panel. You guys probably have heard me mention her a bunch, just talking about the different panels. But yeah, physical to digital was the panel, and that was super fun. Yeah, it was awesome going to VCon. How was your whole VCon experience?
It was good. I escaped COVID, which was
Nice.
probably the best part. No, that's only because I had COVID like a month before at that point. So that would have been horrible if I got it twice. But it was really awesome. I love that everything was in one place. I think that kind of helped me in terms of like if you wanted to like go buy merch or learn about different projects or just sit and eat like in the stadium stands and like listen to a talk on the big screen or like if there's someone on the main stage. I just really like that. It felt like a cohesive conference. It reminded me a lot of like the design conferences that I've been to pre-COVID, which I love. I mean, I also love like NFT NYC and like, you know, when there's like NFT Basel, but I feel like things are all over the place in those cities. So it was really nice to just know that I have to be at this one place the whole day and just be able to chill. So it felt a little more relaxed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you know they actually played our panel on the main stage?
I found out afterwards when someone tagged me on Instagram and I was like, what is that? I was like, where am I? And they're like, it's the main stage. And I was like, oh, cool.
Like, what? I know. I was like, oh my God, no way. I'm glad that they didn't tell me beforehand though. I would have been like, oh God.
Same. I would be like, let me wipe the sweat off my face.
Yeah. And you know Gary, right? Like you personally know Gary V?
Yeah. So I guess a little about my history before I started working freelance as an artist. I went to school for art. My first job out of school was a web designer at Victoria's Secret. And then my second job was at VaynerMedia, which was funny going from everyone knows Victoria's Secret to back in 2014. No one knew what VaynerMedia was. And people are like, ooh, why did you go to a place nobody knows? I was like, you'll know about it eventually. But anyway, so back then, I think Vayner was probably like 300, 400 people. And so Gary would meet with everybody that worked there. That was a new hire. Now I feel like I don't know if that's as possible because they're a lot bigger and they're spread across a few countries now. But anyway, so how I know Gary is that, but also I met my husband at VaynerMedia. He's still there. He's been there for 13 years. I'm trying to do math of how old he is. Yes, 13 years. He's 35. So he grew up with Gary's younger brother, AJ. So when AJ and Gary started VaynerMedia, a lot of their first hires were AJ's friends because they were about 22. They just graduated college. I believe that was like shortly after the recession in 2008. So, they all wanted to work together, and a lot of them are still there, which is really cool. So maybe that's how I know Gary.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I did not know that at all. I'm like, that's super cool. So, and then you were doing graphic design at VaynerMedia, right?
Yeah. So Victoria's Secret was web design. I went to school for graphic design, but it was more of like a fine art design program. So the first 2 years were drawing, painting, sculpture. Last 2 years were design. And I chose it because I was like, I'm 18. I know I want to be an artist. I don't really know what type of artist I want to be. And that major kind of allowed me to play. But when I graduated, all the jobs available were web design. So Victoria's Secret was web design. VaynerMedia was designed for social media, which no one understood. They're like, you make art for Facebook? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, okay. So no one got that.
Gary was so far ahead on that stuff, knowing that it was going to be.
It was, and I even remember the day that he had an all hands meeting talking about for creative and for paid. A, introducing the paid team, and then B, creating artwork for organic content, which I feel like that's changed that term. But anyway, organic content and paid content. And I was like, paid content? I was like, people are going to pay for content? So it's been wild to see how far ahead he was in all of those things. But yeah, I was there for about 2.5 years as a designer and then an art director. Towards the end of that is when I really knew I wanted to work for myself. So I quit and I took a job that was a little more flexible time-wise. I was a designer at Avon, which is a beauty company, and they pretty much have proper 9 to 5 hours, whereas at agencies you have to flex for photo shoots or offsites and things like that. So I wanted to kind of get some time back in the morning and evenings to put towards my own artwork and start sharing that. So I was at Avon for about 1.5 years, and then I started freelancing full-time about 5.5 years ago now. So
wow. And then you were doing physical art, right? After that, after when you started doing, freelance work and all that, it was physical art, or was it still digital?
It was a combination. So my own personal work, I like to make by hand and then high-res scan in. And then for clients, a lot of times they want artwork that can flex in multiple situations. So it might live on social, but it also might live on a shirt or on a product. And that's usually when I would do digital work, is for clients, just because it made the process of post-production a lot easier. Then when I got into NFTs, initially I wanted to do physical stuff, and people were like, what? No, we don't want to give you our address. Don't mail us anything. So that's when I was like, maybe I could do my digital practice, but for myself, as fine arts. That's kind of how I started. And then once I got a foothold and people learned about me and realized I wasn't a crazy person looking to find out where they lived, I was able to start to do work as NFTs too.
And what do you like better, creating physical art or digital art?
For myself, I like painting because it forces me to slow down. I definitely overthink and think in a hyper way. So I think painting forces me to slow down that process. But then there are some really exciting projects that I've been able to create digitally as well. So I think it depends on the nature of the artwork itself.
Yeah. I actually painted for the first time in probably since I was a child. A couple of weeks ago, my dad had come to visit, and I never really seen my dad, and we just decided to paint. And he told us, "Oh, you're in your history, they used to be painters or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, really?" So then I just tried to paint, and I'm like, "Wow, this is very relaxing. It just feels good." And it's time really flies. Just doing something artistically creative. It's something about like no distractions on like, no social media distractions, no, whatever. It's just real life painting. It was
Now
really cool.
her Genesis piece is dropping on Foundation next week.
Let's go.
No.
It's on Super Rare. It's amazing.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome. No, and I feel like that's why I tell people that like you don't have to be a professional artist to paint or create something. I think that it allows you to kind of get out of your own head for a small period of time and just take time to make something for yourself. So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
So when did you actually get into NFTs? Was it because of Gary when he started talking about it? Because I asked that because that's actually the moment that I did. He put out a video in February of 2021 about NFTs, and I already knew how smart he was, and I was all in from that moment.
That's awesome. Probably inadvertently. So my husband Dave, I believe, learned about CryptoPunks probably through AJ, and so that's when he was like, he explained NFTs to me and what CryptoPunks were. And I love them. I love the 8-bit nature of them and how they're generative. And I was like, these are amazing. I want to buy a bunch of them. They were a little out of our price range to buy more than one. Even buying one was kind of a stretch. But I think we're at that point in the pandemic where we're like, fuck it, like whatever. Like let's just throw our life savings in this JPEG and hope for the best. And so that's kind of where I got started. And I just love the fact that artists were able to participate in secondary sales. I mean, at least in the United States, there are no laws that require, auction houses to pay artists secondary sales when something sells at auction. So the fact that this is coded into a smart contract and happens in perpetuity is incredible because, hopefully if I play my cards correctly and my work does well long term, like I know that my children and their children or my brother's children, like in perpetuity, will hopefully have something that can help them support themselves. So I really love that. And I feel like artists historically haven't really had that to date. So that was the like light bulb for me to start selling my work, and then also to start collecting work of other artists that I've loved. That, we live in a small apartment in New York City. It's really tough to put physical artwork in a small apartment. So to be able to finally, with the spending money I do have to collect from artists that I love and not have to worry about it getting damaged or where to put it, has also been another nice payoff.
Totally. The royalties is revolutionary for sure. Like that's and we're just getting started the last few years. I mean, imagine 100 years from now when people that are super famous artists and they're, like,
and
what
I
do you
think, And I was going to say, like, also like the royalties beyond the like financial aspect. I think it's also the respect for creators. I feel like is something that this will help generate right now. I feel a lot of people, especially posting on social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, folks that are digesting that content expect it for free and hope that that creator is working, with a brand or somebody else to get paid, but they want to receive that content for free. And with Web3 and creating royalties, it kind of reminds people that's like, no, these creators that you get this joy and happiness and learning from, they also need to support themselves. So I think that it starts to bring back the respect of creation as a craft more seriously as well, which has been really nice to see that shift in how people view creators in general, whether artists, musicians, what have you.
Yeah. And I remember at VCon, one of the panels I did was generative art, and Tyler Hobbs was on it. And he was saying and he was saying exactly that of the royalty thing of like, this is totally new. Like before, digital artists couldn't make an honest living without doing original some type of, especially without collabing with some big brand or, it's like, it's just, it wasn't really taken seriously as, and you don't really hear many people, I'm going to be a digital artist when I grow up. It's like, I have never heard somebody say that, but now that can be people's actual career. Like they can actually, I think a lot of people, it's like, it's either really hard to be actually making a lot of money in the real world with, being an artist, or it's like, you're a struggling artist. Like it's like a lot of people, like you said, just producing content for free, because that's, and hoping for the best. That's the way a lot of people are doing it. So it's just what makes sense. And but yeah, that's pretty revolutionary too. And I love that you brought up, future generations, like, when you pass on, like, your kids or, your kids' kids will be able to hopefully, continue to benefit from the work that you've done. And it's like, wow, that's crazy concept to think about. That's so crazy. That's crazy to think about, really.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, and your CryptoPunk, you were talking about CryptoPunks. That was your profile picture for the longest time. I remember that. I just see now that you've changed it to your Atom Bombs, or sorry, the Hundreds collab, and it's like, it's
Yeah, I
really
change
cool.
my profile picture once a year. I mean, I didn't
Once a
really
year.
change it on Instagram. I mean, on Twitter. I would always just change it once a year on Instagram. I beg Dave to like take a picture of me every year. That's what's updated. But I was like, oh, I should do that for Twitter. And then like after my collab with the Hundreds Adam Bob Squad, I was like, that'll be a fun profile picture. So I switched it up, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, I'm not going to recognize you." I'm like, "Relax, Bill." I was like, "Give it like 3 weeks." I was like, "You guys all change your profile pictures every other day, and I keep up to it." So, but yeah, I love the Hundreds. I've been a big fan of the Hundreds for a long time, and it was really awesome to meet Bobby. I met Bobby at VCon, and I definitely fangirled. I was like went in to give me a hug. Everyone's like, Bobby, Amber, and I just like stunned, stood there. I'm like, oh my god. But him and his team are really awesome to work with, and to see my work kind of like merge with theirs was really, really cool. So that's definitely a special one.
What are some of your other favorite collabs? Because I know you've done a ton of collaborations, with big brands, with NFT brands. And yeah, I'm just curious what some of your favorites are.
The Hundreds is definitely up there. Usually it's like the most recent one is my favorite because it's a reflection of who I am currently. So the Hundreds is definitely, I would say, probably number one. Another one that I really loved was probably earlier on in the pandemic. Adidas have like a shop in Midtown, and they invited different artists to make work that then they allowed customers to heat press onto shirts. So it was this really nice. It was the first in-person thing that I did what felt like forever at the time. But then it was nice to create elements of artwork that then customers could then customize themselves. Like I really liked that collaborative aspect to that project. So that was another fun one too. But yeah, I'd say those two are pretty up there. And then before the pandemic, right before the pandemic, I did an artist residency at Facebook. They have an office down downtown, Midtown area, and to go in and to be able to make artwork like in a studio space and like outside my home for like 6 weeks was also a really fun experience. So those are the top three that come to mind.
That's awesome. I wanted to talk about what you have coming up next. So yeah, I guess I'll let you say, but you have something coming up July 15th. Very exciting.
Yeah, I'm very nervous. I was like, way to drop your biggest collection during a bear market, you idiot. But that's okay. So in January, I had this idea. So most of my work that I do physically, if it's not a one-of-one that the collector gets the painting of, it's usually an edition of a painting. I have a printmaking background, and to be able to play with the idea of editioning with NFTs is something that was really intriguing to me. But a lot of folks were starting to say, I love your editions. I'm so happy I'm collecting them. I would love to collect a one-of-one, but all of your one-of-ones right now are just slightly out of reach. So I was starting to brainstorm a way to make something physically with my hands that could only live digitally. I really love generative art. I also love like AI art, and just kind of being inspired by notes of those two, I decided to take colored cut pieces of paper and kind of sprinkle them onto my scanner, scan them in, and then wipe the paper and then make another piece. So as I was doing that, the idea of the title Memories of a Masterpiece started to come to mind, and the idea that I'm making these things very physically by hand, like scanning them in, editing them, doing them all, like with this physical labor and like using my body to press down on the scanner to make sure that it scans properly. But then only the scan is the remnant of that artwork. I thought was really interesting. So initially I wanted to make 5,000 of them and then I got to like 500 and it's like, maybe we don't do 5,000. And 9 is my lucky number. So I landed on 999. And as I started to make these pieces, there are a few traits. People ask me if there's rarity. There are a few traits that are inspired by where I was when I made those pieces. If I placed the paper on the scanner or if they were kind of sprinkled onto the scanner and if my signature on the piece is showing or not. And I wanted everything to kind of lean into just like the experience of living my life. So I think the idea that life itself is a masterpiece is really important to me, and that all these different scanned one-of-ones kind of lean into one aspect of my life in the last few months that it took to make it. So I'm really excited.
Nice. How's it going to be sold for people that are listening?
Yeah, so my friends Ben and Mai, they run Curious Addies, which is a really awesome NFT like educational project. They built the contract for me, thank God. Because originally it was like, I guess I'll pre-mint 1,000 things on Manifold, and they were like, no, don't do that. So they built me a website and they built me a contract, and on July 15th at 10 a.m. Eastern, I'll tweet out that link. And I've been telling everyone the last month that I'm only going to tweet it. So like if it's not on my Twitter, don't click on it. So they helped me build that contract, and it's a 721A. So hopefully that will help in terms of gas fees when people mint, to keep it a bit more accessible. But I wanted this collection to be as accessible as possible for one of one. So they're priced at 0.09, again, leaning into the 9 is my favorite number. And hopefully that 721A that they created for me will help kind of keep that gas price down for everybody too. So I'm excited.
Cool. That's nice. That's exciting for people, 0.09, only 999 of them. They look really cool. I saw some samples, I think, on your Twitter.
Yes. Yeah. I've been tweeting it out like a lot. So I'm glad that it made it into your algorithm.
Yeah, no, it did. Well, I went through, it may or may not have, but I went through and kind of tried to do a little research before the episode.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to do a little bit. I think I even saw you have a book coming out as well, don't you?
I do. So I finished the
Yeah.
artwork for that almost a year ago, a little less than a year ago now. So it's always been a goal of mine to have a book of what I didn't know when I was younger. But so this is a book called These Are My Big Girl Pants. And it is a combination of my poetry that I've written over the last few years and some artwork that are folks' favorites, but then also new artwork that people haven't seen. To me, it's older now that it's almost a year old, but I'm really excited. It's tentatively coming out January 3rd. It's being published with Andrew McNeil. Yeah. So hopefully if, things overseas in terms of like getting books made and shipped all stay in alignment, it'll be early January that it comes out.
Nice. Going Web 2 for that, sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, so once we get more specific on
I'm just kidding.
The date. No, I want to do something NFT wise.
Okay. Oh, wow.
They're open to it too. But I said to them, I was like, let's wait until we get closer. When we were starting to brainstorm ideas for like sharing the book, it was like probably fall of last year. I was like, by fall of 2022, it might be a whole different landscape than it is in 2021. So I'm still kind of noodling on like what that might look like. So TBD.
Cool. I actually the poetry that I saw, the samples are like short poems, right? Usually 4, 5, 6 lines. I really enjoyed them. Nice, like succinct and kind of it was cool to read.
Thank you. Yeah, I like to keep my poetry more succinct just because I feel like emotions are sometimes super complicated, at least for me to digest. So I try to do it in a way that is easy for me to kind of reflect on as I go through the emotions that I go through, like any human does. So I appreciate that resonated with you.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I liked reading those, and I like seeing you're a true artist for sure. And you can tell by the way you talk and you do a real like method behind what you do. It's definitely
method behind the madness.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I was just gonna say, because I was curious if there's any, like, I guess besides the book and this new collab thing coming out, or not collab thing, but the collage of all the pieces, 999. If there's any like collabs I guess, that you have in the works?
I feel like this is the first year that kind of flows like normal years as a freelancer. So like before the pandemic, like the summertime usually slows down because people are traveling. 2020 and 2021 were not that. Everyone was like locked in their home and working. And I remember being like, oh my God, these are the busiest summers I've ever had. So this summer it's kind of slowed down a little bit in terms of collabs coming out in the recent future. Nothing beyond those two that I can think of. But there are some collabs that are coming out in the next year that take a little bit of time to make. I work so far in advance that sometimes I work on something and then I forget I worked on it to like, we're ready to market. And you're like, oh yeah. I guess the only other thing, the only other thing also towards the end of 2022 is I did a really beautiful collaboration with Revive. They're an amazing, I believe New York based skincare brand. So they're going to be sharing more details on that in the next few months, but that's another one that's coming out in by the end of this year. So that should be fun.
Cool. And then how can people buy your book? Like, I mean, where can I buy your book when it comes out?
So when it comes out, I'm going to be, you'll see, I'll be shamelessly begging people to pre-sale buy it because those are super important in the publishing.
Pre-sale buy.
I'm going to safely assume that it'll probably be on places like Amazon, but then also stocked in bookstores. But once I have those pre-sale details, you will definitely see them on my Twitter for sure.
Sweet. Yeah, and Amber's Twitter is Amber_Vittoria. We will link it as well. Make sure you're following her for all the latest and greatest. Yeah. Okay. So, Michael, do you have any other questions?
Well, we always like to talk about what other artists and what other projects that you're into, people you like, people you respect. I'd love to hear who you think is doing really cool stuff.
So many of them. I would say artist wise, off the top of my head, my friend Danielle Evans, she does these really beautiful, like 3D sculptural pieces of artwork. She also has a background in commercial art like me as a freelancer. She's also started to play with using the artwork in a 3D digital space, which has been really beautiful to see. So I love her work. There is a letterer. His name is Jackson Alves. I also love his work. I've definitely retweeted that a bunch. I would get it, but then my headphones it would be a whole mess to get them. But I have a beautiful alphabet that he lettered that I bought the NFT from and then begged to buy the physical from as well, even though he didn't want to sell it to me because it was on thinner paper. And it's like, I roll, I'm buying it. So I really love his work too. Even though I say I buy NFTs, so I don't have to, I don't fill my space with too much physical artwork. That hasn't solved that problem. I just buy NFTs that have physical artwork. So, that's okay. Another artist that I really love that hopefully one day we'll be able to meet in person is Claire Silver. She does really incredible abstract, like AI paintings. I have one of her pieces from her Brain Drops. I think that happened last November. And her work is just really incredible. And the way that she speaks about artists and the provenance for artists in the future within this space has been really inspiring. So it's just pretty off the top of my head.
Nice.
Yeah, Claire Silver. Oh my gosh, I right click save when she posts. I'm like, oh my God, this is too cool. I need this in my photos.
She's awesome. I remember when that Brain Drops things happened, I was like, whatever, I'll just pay 4x for it. I had it saved. Like, I'm not trying to get that. And then I fail transaction. I can't handle that. So I bought it on the secondary like 5 minutes after it sold out. And it's fantastic.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we would love to get her on the pod someday. She's a little hard to reach, but maybe someday.
Yeah. Podcasts, especially I feel like sometimes do a lot of podcasts with Twitter DM me and then I don't see it until months later. I'm like, ooh. Yeah. That's when like email me. If like anyone that's listening, email me.
That's a good tip. We got to go find emails for people that we can't get a hold of.
Yeah, usually it's on websites and some people will say they're like, I can't find your email. I'm like,
right. It's on my website.
Yeah. But yeah, because I feel like DMs are really tough. They're not. Twitter and Instagram are getting better at organizing them, filtering actual spam from non-spam, but they're still tough to know.
I got one at Twitter. Speaking of spam on Twitter, I got one that said hello and then it said parentheses name parentheses. And like they didn't like
they didn't edit it.
Yeah. I was like, nice work. At least, you know.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that is so funny.
I know. I
mean,
love those generic ones. Are they?
They're like, hey man,
clearly.
or like one of them the other day.
You've been chosen for the pre-sale list. Oh, really?
Or like, but my favorite one I got, like, I think it's a day or two ago, I tweeted about it. It was like, hey guys, we really love your project. And I was like, first of all, like, I mean, most of the time I get, you know, like those random ones will always assume you know, like a male gender, but the guys, like the plural, it's like at least get how many of me there are. At least do that. But yeah, they're always really funny, those automated DMs. But that makes it hard to like decipher, like when I do go through them, like what is like a true
I
message.
know.
So I always tell people to email me.
Sometimes I feel bad because like you don't want to respond to any of them that are garbage, but sometimes you're not 100% sure and like you want to be nice to somebody.
Exactly.
I don't like ignoring real people.
Same. I always feel bad. So I usually tell people if I don't respond, follow up in a different way.
Right.
Maybe it got filtered in my spam. Yeah. I literally just
sending in emails at Alpha. If you want to get a hold of Amber, send her an email.
But literally someone sent me an email, not NFT related, but for another project. They're like, hey, following up. And I was like, I didn't even get your first email.
Following up.
Thank you for following up. I don't know how. And
maybe that's the key. You just say following up and then, oh shoot, I must have missed the first one.
Exactly.
And then there secretly was no first one.
And I look though, there are some people have pulled that trick and I was like, you liar. And then I was like, not respond. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like, thank you for your original interest. And like, oh, I was interested at one point.
Yeah. People are getting smart. But yeah, Claire is definitely a really great artist that hopefully I'll meet in person soon.
Yeah, but I don't know what she looks like. Do you know what she looks like? Like,
no.
How would you meet? I mean, I guess they would have to come up to you. Hi, I'm Claire Silver. Like, yeah, that's the thing too. It's like, I don't know what some people look like and I want to meet them. But then it's like, how am I supposed to meet them if I don't know?
Or someone will be like, I'm so-and-so. And like, I'm such a visual person. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Let me see your profile picture.
Yes. I'm like, and then like, they'll see that I'm like trying to go through my internal Rolodex and then they like show me their profile picture. I'm like, oh, hello, friend. I'm like, I don't do well with names. That's my only weakness about the PFP as NFT is that my brain will take a little bit of time to adjust, but it'll get there.
Yeah. And you were saying earlier too, you change your Instagram and Facebook picture like or you used to like change it every year. And it's like, you know, as humans, we look different every year, you know, but our profile picture of an NFT, it could literally be the same thing for years and it doesn't matter because it's not even you. And like, it's so bizarre to think about.
I know. That's what I was like, I guess I don't have to change my PFP, but I really like my Atom Bomb Squad collab. So I was like, that one might stick for a while.
Yeah. No, it's nice. And it's like, you know, you can see your work and everything with it. I went through a phase where I changed my profile picture every single day just for fun to a different NFT that I owned. And I was like, hope y'all are keeping up with this. And I'm just like changing it every day to a new one. And but now I'm stuck with, I have my doodle, but it's just like, I don't know. I feel like, oh no, now I can't change it. Otherwise someone's going to think I sold it.
I mean, our punk isn't even in my wallet. Like I remember when I first put it up as my profile picture, I like went to Dave. It's in like our vault wallet. I was like, it's not in my wallet. People are just thinking that I stole it. And he was like, yeah, for who? For me? They're like, don't worry about that. But that's what I thought. I was like, I thought it had to be an NFT in your wallet. I mean, it does if you want to connect it for that polygon.
Right, for that hexagon.
But, you know. Thank you. But even you said doodles, like going back to like commercial artists, like I don't know them personally, but Burnt Toast Creative is the artist that does all the doodles work. And I've followed them for such a long time. They've done like huge commercial collaborations with like Google and like I've seen their work everywhere. And I was sad that I missed out on a doodle and then it like went parabolic. And so one day I'll get it, but I love them from afar. But it's really nice to even see artists to create work in that way and to do so well. And then to have like a team and a project kind of like build around it and create this community and this universe, if you will, around their work. Like it's such a new avenue for artists. So it's really exciting to see people like that have had a commercial background be able to kind of view their work and create work and story tell in a different way with Web3. So Doodles is a great example of that.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the profile pictures, often you don't think much about the artist. Like I feel like Cool Cats, when they came out, they did a great job of like everyone was like Klon, the artist, and it was like really about the artist, which was different because I mean, Bored Apes, nobody's like, oh, the artist. Like,
yeah,
I don't even think
Bored Apes is like a series of like 3 or 4 artists, I think.
Is it? Yeah, because it's like nobody. It's not like, oh, this person is the artist behind it, and like they didn't. That wasn't like the selling point, you know. But yeah, I think that's interesting. Yeah, Burnt Toast with Doodles, like Klon with Cool Cats, and I love that. Like the whole, oh, these are they're artists. It's not just clip art or whatever. Like it's like they're actually, you know, and they're collabing with other people, devs and whatnot, putting together a project. I think that's really fun. For me, that's kind of like a cool thing. But it's like, okay, these are actual artists. It's like, this is their passion. This is what they do.
So what do we think the NFT space is going to look like in the next year, 2 years? What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, I don't know. If I knew, I think I'd
right.
If I knew in a year from now, I'd be on an island. No, I'm kidding. Like this, we never heard
this one's going to 100x. Yeah, exactly.
It's like Amber became a billionaire and disappeared off the face of the planet. No,
what happened? What happened?
Just kidding. My
she
hope.
Knew.
Yeah. My hope is that, and I think we're already starting to see it with ETH kind of correcting, and at least the United States kind of slipping into a bit of a bear market, is that people are slowing down. I think they're being a bit more intentional with what they're collecting and why, instead of the intention to get rich quickly. I know that we've seen so many like overnight successes in terms of someone minting something and then flipping it for like 300x. But that mentality isn't sustainable for everybody. And I think the beauty of decentralization is that the goal, at least for me, is that everyone can support themselves using this technology. So you don't need to be making millions of dollars a year, but you can make enough to live a life that makes you happy, whether you're making artwork or you're selling other people's artwork. I think that that's my hope, is that we all kind of balance out a little bit and realize that this is a technology that we could leverage for so many other things too, in addition to NFTs, and that it allows us to create lives for ourselves that, you know, we could kind of lead a little bit more. So that's my hope. And then the blockchain technology in general, like hopefully by the time I'm old, it'd be really nice that like wills and all that stuff and your medical history will all be tethered to the blockchain. So I don't need to be begging my kid for what medicine I need to take and stuff like that. That'll all be automated too. So I'm hoping that this technology allows that to happen as well, for us as we grow older. So that's not in the next few years, that's in the next few decades.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm really excited about it long term.
Nice.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about too. And even pictures being permanent. Like I don't ever have anything backed up on my phone. So the other day, or I guess this was like a month or so ago, I literally like broke my phone and I had to end up wiping it and reset it. And I lost thousands of photos and videos. And I was like, what do I even take photos and videos for? Like, what's the point if I'm just gonna all disappear? And it's like, okay, obviously I should have backed it up, right? But if those photos and videos were on the blockchain, like it would have been fine. But also that's scary to think about. Like, oh, my photos and videos on the blockchain, like I don't want that permanent. Like, you know, I do embarrassing things. I look embarrassing.
Hopefully it wouldn't be like a non-fungible token. It could be, I forget the term that they're talking about, like for medical records, that it's something that's private. Soulbound. Yeah. So like that could be like, maybe there'll be a new iteration of like what a token looks like, leveraging blockchain technology that's just private to you, but you'll never lose it. And if you choose to burn it, you can, but it's not like people can go and like search, you know, your public photos and be like, I found a photo of you when you're 12, and you're like, oh my God.
No.
Yeah, not like that.
Let's think, and then 300 years down the line, your ancestors. Your ancestors can, you know, because now we can't do that. And even if there were photos, they get lost. But like forever, they'll be able to say, "Oh, wow, that was my great grandfather." You know, like,
exactly. That's why I laugh, because like a few years ago, our friend did my like genealogy histories before you had kids. You had a little bit more free time. And
Mhm.
there's this photo of like, I forget, it was like my great grandfather. It was like in a newspaper and it was all like damaged and weirdly scanned in. He found it from, I forget how he found it online, but I was like, they don't register as like people that have full lives because it's like in this like old archaic type of format. So that's really exciting that even like, you know, few centuries from now, someone could see like photos and videos of you living your life as a full person, even though you're so many centuries removed. So I think that's really exciting too.
Yeah, like
so
the
much
videos
opportunity.
thing. Yeah, that trips me up. Like you can't, your great grandparents, like you don't see a video of them just living their lives, but yeah, you could literally see a video of, you know, your future grandchildren. Maybe they'll see videos of your lives. Like that's pretty wild.
Yeah,
that is so crazy.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, but very exciting, nonetheless. Very exciting, scary, exciting, all of the above.
As it should be.
As it should be. Sure.
I think that's a really exciting part of the blockchain. Like I probably will put all my pictures on there at some point on one that's stable. And
exactly.
You got to worry like a blockchain in 100 years. What if say, you know, what if you put them on Solana, say, and then in 100 years, it's like, it's gone.
It's gone.
That's, you know, that's, or is it forever? Is it like, I don't know. I don't know how that works. It's like, nobody could turn it off, right?
Yeah. I mean, unless when
I don't know if I'm smart enough to get into that. But,
I was like, if the universe ends, I don't know if it'll exist, but you know, to an extent. But that's true. But I do think like, and I love that it creates a lot of optimism and hope. I think, especially in the last few years, living through a pandemic and like in the United States with everything that's happening, I feel like this technology brings people out of hope because it allows us to be forward thinking, where I think a lot of times, especially with the pandemic, that at least for me hindered my ability to be hopeful about a future. So when I was introduced to NFTs and Web3, it allowed me to think in a way like, oh wow, this is how we can make, you know, life better, not only for ourselves, but for people that will come after we're gone. So I think that has been the reason why I'll always stick around and, you know, be invested in what this technology could do for other people.
Totally.
With that said, thank you, Amber, so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. You're welcome back anytime. Thank you for coming on. Amber_Vittoria on Twitter. Check her out. Stay tuned for the next drop she has coming up July 15th. And thank you all so much for listening to this episode. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to the NFT Catcher Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something new about the exciting world of NFTs. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you really love what you're hearing, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite platform. If you want to stay up to date with the latest news and insights from the NFT space, be sure to follow us on all the socials at NFT Catcher Pod. You can follow Jennifer at Jennifer_Pseudo and Michael at NFTicket. I'm your producer, Andy, and I'm at AJC254. Our theme song's by It's Just Los. We always appreciate your feedback and support, which helps us reach more people and bring you informative and engaging content about NFTs. We look forward to bringing you more great NFT content in future episodes. Thanks for listening. Peace.